Okay, this one is Karma Part 2, Divine Timing. So I've already done one called Karma, and I've had some feedback saying could I elaborate on karma, and of course it's a massive topic. So this is Karma Part 2, in that it's the aspect of what we call karma, what we see as karma, in the context of divine timing. As you know, I'm not someone that believes in a power that's greater than what's within us, that has control over us. And so I suppose I want to speak to some of the subtleties of that and what that means in context of what we perceive as divine timing or what we perceive as karma. So I just want to start with a metaphor, actually. I've used this metaphor multiple times, and it's the one of the murmuration of birds. Or if you don't know what a murmuration, actually, if you want to Google it, if you Google a murmuration of starlings, you'll see what I mean. But if you don't know what that is, you can just imagine a school of fish, like a massive school of fish. And so if you imagine this murmuration of birds or a huge school of fish, imagine yourself to be one of those fish, and you're just swimming around following your own nature, and there's a predator detected, and all you do is you follow your own impulses in order to be safe. You're not thinking about anything. You're just feeling impulses within your body as that fish, and you're following your nature. You're just moving in response to the impulses you're receiving in your body. So now, if you zoom out of that fish and become the observer of that fish within the school of fish, you can see that each individual fish within that school of fish is doing the exact same thing, but they seem to be moving together as one. And in fact, if you zoomed far enough out of that scene, you'd possibly only see just one thing, like a big movement, like energy movement. And what you would notice about it is how elegant that it moves and how smoothly it moves. Just in waves. And it wouldn't be until you zoomed back in that you would see that there are individual cells, which is each individual fish. And so there is a single mind. There is a mind that all of those fish share. And the best way to describe that is to say that it's consciousness. There is a level of consciousness that is aware that it is all of those fish. And if you zoom into the fish, there is one fish, and it is conscious of being a fish. It is unaware of being one thing, the school of fish. It's just following its own nature, and what happens as a result of following its own nature is that all of these other fish are part of its environment. And so there could be a scenario where, let's say there was a huge shark who had the potential to, eat a lot of the fish. There could be a scenario where that mind is conscious of the one mind controlling the whole school of fish, where it is conscious of let's say, if 5 fish were to sacrifice themselves, it would ensure that the unified whole would continue to evolve and thrive and expand. And in fact, this is exactly what happens. So there may be a fish within that school of fish that receives the signal to break free from the school of fish, maybe to act as a decoy or to sacrifice its own life so that the entire school of fish could thrive and survive. But as far as that single fish that leaves the group, is concerned, it's just following its own nature. It felt an impulse within its body, and behavior just occurs. There's no interpretation from the fish receiving a signal, thinking to itself, oh, is this right? Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. And that's what free will is. Free will is that, that human beings have, is we get to choose and we get to interpret the meaning of the signals that we receive. And that's what makes us so powerful, is that the interpretation is down to us to choose what it means. Whereas the interpretation, it happens instantaneously with every other form of life that we know of. So it's just following its own nature, and it gets eaten. And this is what's really important to understand, is that there is no higher power that has control over you. However, there is a mind that, and I would actually call it a hive mind, where there is a state or a level of consciousness that is aware that it is all of humanity, and that every individual human being is a cell within its body. But here's the thing, is when every human being has the ability to also become aware of being this mind, of having this state of consciousness, whether it's through meditation or through, deep levels of self-awareness, you can expand your consciousness to a perspective of knowing that you are all of humanity. And so this is what I want to explain about divine timing, and I'm gonna begin sharing my perspective about how that, when you become aware of being that one mind, how that works in context of all of humanity thriving as one. So let's say, I talk a lot in my podcasts about we receive a thought, we give unconditional presence to that thought, we stay with it, and in the process of staying with it, we're giving it our energy, we're shining the light of awareness onto it, and it's receiving that energy, and it is appreciating because of it. That thought turns into a vision, the vision becomes bigger and bigger, and until we begin to interpret the meaning of that vision, and that's where our free will choice comes in. That we get to decide what it means. And within that, it could be inspiration to move forward, to to formulate a question, to go deeper, and that to live a life that holds meaning for us is to follow that relentlessly, is to follow our vision, is to follow to follow the interpretation of our thoughts, our visions. That's how you experience meaning, through realizing the meaning of our vision. And so, in the same way that that's one fish within a school of fish, the interpretation just happens and behavior just happens. There's no choice. Human beings are uniquely gifted with free will, where we determine what our vision means, and for us. So if you look at human beings now like a murmuration of birds or like a school of fish, and you're a human being, and you're like one fish within the greater body of humanity, there is a part of you, and in fact, you could call it the greater part, or but there is one mind that you share with all of humanity. And so what that means is there could be a human being on the other side of the planet that you've never met before, who's just received a thought, and from the one mind, and that human being is giving that thought unconditional presence, and that thought is becoming a vision, and that vision is becoming, a scene, and that person begins to interpret that scene until it holds meaning for that human being. And they feel inspiration arise. And that thought could have been a thought that was given to that person by the higher mind in preempting a future connection with you on the other side of the world at some point. And this higher mind would be orchestrating that meeting. So let's say, let's look at me, for example. I'm currently, my project I'm working on. Well, actually, I won't talk about the work project. I'll talk about a personal project, which is, I want to play competitive tennis again. And so I'm holding the vision for playing competitive tennis again. The vision I've got currently is unfolding where I'm able to travel the world and play tennis tournaments. And there's a coach that comes into my awareness. And so this could be that coach. We've never met before. And yet he's getting thoughts about, I live in New Zealand. He's getting thoughts about visiting New Zealand for something to do with his work. And so this one mind that we share is trying to orchestrate that meeting between us. We're just two fish within the greater school. We're oblivious to each other. But the one mind is aware of both of us and is orchestrating a meeting between us. And this is how it works. So divine timing simply means that in the context of this one mind orchestrating a meeting between us, divine timing is all the variables pertaining to all the free will choices that could take place between now and that meeting. So it's imagine he could resist this this thought. He could resist this vision. He could dismiss it, put it to one side, and be in total resistance to exploring the opportunity to come to New Zealand. And so because every human being has got free will, this one mind has to observe all of the behavior that happens within every human being and continually assess the potential. Just continually assessing the potential, running its awareness down potentialities, exploring its own vision in context of these free will choices that are being made. And so this is what I mean by, I really emphasize this in my podcast episodes, is that there is no power that has control over you. And this is what I mean. Because the one mind that's trying to orchestrate everything in your life so that you can realize your highest potential is totally powerless against your free will. So let's say, and this is why trust is so important, that we trust every thought, that we trust every vision, that we trust every emotion, because it's coming from this higher mind, which is orchestrating you realizing your highest potential. That's its only concern. Its only concern is you realizing more and more of your latent potential. It's just relentless. That's all it wants. But you're free. You have free will. So it can give you a thought, and this mind knows that your highest potential, your greatest fulfillment lies. Let's use the tennis coach again. This mind knows that this tennis coach's greatest fulfillment lies within this meeting. Meanwhile, this coach is getting bombarded with thoughts all the time. And meanwhile, because of his beliefs about meditation and that stilling the mind to escape the thoughts is actually what you're meant to do. And so he's trying to run away from the thoughts. And, let's say he keeps getting these thoughts for the next 6 months. Eventually, this mind is going to go, okay, the resistance to his thoughts is too great because he's still holding on to some project he's working on. He can't let go of it in order to move into this new vision. Then this one mind, the orchestrator of all that is eventually seeing the potentialities in a different way. He's seeing that, okay, there's actually a coach in this place here. And so he's orchestrating that person. And then, sending this person thoughts, seeing if seeing how that evolves. So I call this, because I do this in my own life, and I call it breadcrumbing. So this higher mind is leaving breadcrumbs the whole time for every human being in the form of thoughts. This, and my dear friend and I, we joke about this energy of leaving breadcrumbs. And it's like this mind goes, this, what about this, this? And, it's like every thought contains an inspiration that is leading to higher and higher potential. And this is what I really struggle to share with people, and in a way that they can understand, because it's so hard for them to accept or to integrate that every thought holds higher potential for their fulfillment. And they really struggle to believe that because some of their thoughts are negative. And this is the thing that I would love every human being to be able to understand this, because it's actually your shadow self that is holding the greatest resistance to you realizing your highest potential. And so until you're able to shine the light of awareness, of your own awareness, onto your shadow self and embrace it and accept it wholly, you're not really going to be able to experience, really high emotions like exaltation and joy, bliss, ecstasy, triumph. And the reason for that is because the polarity is a bit confusing, because we think that, let's take love and fear, for example. They are polarized experiences, but they're actually part of the same thing. They're one thing, but varying degrees of that one thing. Because fear is an absence of love. Love is an absence of fear. And as you go down that spectrum, you could describe that one thing as either having an absence of fear or having an absence of love, and that's exactly the same thing. So it's almost like it's if you were to think of it in a linear fashion, you would look at the left-hand side being fear, and the right, and draw a line and go to the right-hand side, and that's love. And you imagine it like a thermometer that's measuring the temperature. And wherever the little red line is measuring where it is, how much love or how much fear there is, you can put it on the middle or towards the top or down near the bottom. You realize it's the same thing. Now, what that means is that if you're in resistance to fear, you can never experience heightened levels of love, because they're the same thing. So to resist fear is to resist love. And this is why it's so hard, when you first become awakened to all this. That's why it's so hard, because it's so hard to believe that you're on the right track, because you're experiencing what happens first is all of your shadow aspects get thrown up in your face because you've made this decision to become more and to experience joy and fulfillment. And so what's going to happen if you intend to experience joy and fulfillment in the context of that thermometer, then the polarity of joy is what you're going to have to bring your awareness to first. The polarity of fulfillment is what you're going to have to bring your awareness to first. And so this is why it seems so hard. And this is why lots of people ignore their thoughts, when the reality is every thought holds inspiration for even higher potential for all of the things that you do want. But it may be that you have to experience deeper and darker shadows first. So this is how it works. This is how it works. And if you imagine being that mind of all humanity, and knowing that every time you go this, every time you share a thought with the mind of a human being, that it's literally a gift, and it's just getting rejected time after time after time after time. And I hold this. I personally hold this awareness myself of, through meditation and my own inward journey. I can go into and out of this perspective and experience it as a part of myself. And, I can tell you that an extremely low percentage of these gifts, the majority of them are rejected. And, I've explored potentials myself of, what would happen if human beings received every thought like it was a gift from the part of themselves that can see their highest potential, and they trusted that. And the way that we would thrive, the way that I envisioned it after I asked myself this question, utopia is the only way I could really describe it. We would thrive so potently that, I even, in the vision, I even saw that the earth would begin to produce new minerals and new plants and new species, and even in my vision, I see the earth growing and becoming bigger. And, I think that, it's my belief that human beings, through our own capacity to thrive, have the potential to populate all of the planets in the solar system. But it's not going to be, I believe there's a way to do it in the context of realizing higher and higher potential, for enabling the planet to realize its highest potential, for enabling all of the planets in the solar system to realize their highest potential. Rather than some cataclysmic thing where we're trying to stay alive. And so we have to, then go and occupy another planet and then totally deplete that. I don't see it in that way, but, and so it may seem like I'm not talking about karma or divine timing, but you have to understand this first, that there is one mind that can see your highest potential, is in every second of every day is giving you a new thought that holds a revelation that leads to you realizing higher and higher potential. And divine timing can be described as all of the variables pertaining to the free will choices that are made by human beings in between. And so, to bring the tennis coach metaphor into it again, in the metaphor I shared with you, the tennis coach that the higher mind identified as the highest potential for us to connect, decided that those thoughts weren't for him. And so he's blocking his highest potential. And so the next highest potential is explored. So now a thought's being given to another tennis coach somewhere else. So that's all divine timing is. It's the byproduct of free will choice. As well as the strategy of the higher mind, because unless you can zoom into the perspective of that mind, which all of us can do, by the way, you're totally unaware of, its strategy as the orchestrator of the body of humanity realizing its highest potential. So, yeah, that's it. So karma, what I want to really reiterate with karma is that there is no power that can control you. Not even this higher mind. It's only capable of sending you a thought. And that's not control. That's you receiving a gift. You can choose whether to reject it or nurture it. That's your free will choice. And so it has zero control. But if you really understood it, you would know that it sees your highest potential and that you would just trust every thought relentlessly. But it does not govern you. It does not control you. It has no power over you other than all of your thoughts come from it. But to say it's benevolent is not even close to benevolence. It is pure love. It only wants you to realize higher and higher potential and more fulfillment. It only wants you to express and experience the fulfillment of your deepest desires. And so you can trust every thought, even when it's negative, especially when it's negative. And so when you feel karma, or if you have an experience in your life and you would say it's karmic, what that actually means is that there's something that you are resistant to, a truth within you that it has yet to come to the surface. And karma is the repeated experience of this. The reason it feels cyclical as well is because there are ancestral elements to it. So whatever the assumptions that your ancestors made, whatever their beliefs, perceptions, those are held within your DNA, and you come into this life holding those perspectives. But you're unconscious of them. And so you might notice that you have repeated experiences and you don't understand why. And it's because those the perspectives are still held within your DNA, and you're still projecting a reality based on the lens of those perceptions. And it's not until you are able to shine the light of awareness on those perceptions that are held that they lose their power. And so you feel this repeated wave of experiences, and it does feel cyclical, because of what the planets are doing as well. They have their own frequency and vibration. They have their own energy, and of course, how close that planet is to us, and the nature of its energy plays a part in what energy within you is magnified and amplified, and so that plays a factor as well. So hence why it feels cyclical as well. But the point I want to make is just to not use karma as another method for giving it power over you by saying, you're experiencing something karmic, because all that does is it gives you a reason to not take responsibility for it yourself. To say that it's karmic, it's the same as if you've listened to my addiction podcast. It's the same reason that we create addiction, and that is to avoid taking responsibility for the choice. Because what you would call your karma, what you would describe something, if you find yourself describing something as karmic, it just means repressed truth that is currently unseen, but is being magnified by a planet, or the cyclical nature of a planet, or the free will choices of other people that are related to you experiencing it, or bringing the light of awareness onto it. But it does not control you. It can't control you. Nothing can control you. Nothing on earth can control you. So yeah, that's pretty much it. But you are a part of something much greater. But that greater thing, it does not control you. You cannot control you. But if you're able to get to the stage where you trust the source of your thoughts implicitly, then and you trust that it only wants you to realize your highest potential, what that means is you're actually just going to receive every thought. Every thought, you'll realize it's, to use a metaphor, because there is no God, obviously, is to say it's like a gift from God. But what you think is God, or you may call it your higher self, or it's the mind that contains you and every other human being. But it's part of you. It's not separate to you. So to say that it's, you can't describe it as separate to you, because it's like the membrane around a cell. It's still a part of the cell. But that membrane is responsible for sending all of the signals to every part of that cell. You see? So the cell is still one thing, but just because the digestive system in that cell receives the signal from the membrane and the I don't know what other parts are there of a cell. Another part of the cell receives its signals from the same membrane. It's the same with all human beings. We're all receiving our thoughts from the membrane that contains us. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. Karma's a real tricky one. I'm still trying to navigate the ideal way to explain it, but I'm becoming aware that there are deeper truths that have to be understood before you can totally wrap your head around karma. But my hope for you is that you realize that no one is a victim to karma. You're always experiencing the universe or your reality as a mirror of your current perspective. And based on the energies around you, the free will choices of the other people around you, the nature of the thoughts that are being shared with those people, and with you, and what the planets are doing, of course, are all influencing whether the present repressed or hidden truth is being amplified, magnetized, or otherwise. Hopefully that makes sense. This has been Karma Part 2, Divine Timing. That's it for now. Talk soon.